Hi YouTube, how's everything going? The reason why I'm doing this video is to talk about a person doing like vice versa talking. Okay, the word of God say let your no be no and your yes yes. What it says is pretty much anything beyond nay nay and yay yay, it is of evil, right? So you got some people sit up there and say, okay, well, when I say no, it means yes. And when I say yes, it means no. And it is confusion. And it's of confusion. It's not like really direct talk or talking directly to a person and saying, hey, this and that is going on with me, and being direct. When you're not directly talking to people or you're using like code or whatever the case may be, other people misinterpret your code. And a lot of bad things can happen to you because other people misinterpret your code. But you say, oh, well, this is amongst me and so. Or this person knows exactly what I mean and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily so. So you may call a woman out of her name. You may say, oh, well, she's this, she's that, or whatever the case may be, right? After you call this person out of their name, later on you recognize or you realize, like, okay, I called that person that, but the way we set it up is that if I call this person this name, that they're not really that, they're something else. And it's your way of covering it up, but you know it's of evil. A lot of things that you're doing is of evil. It's like, how can how can I really explain it better to you guys? Because it's like the way I just explained it is all over the place. It's not really as clear as I want it to be. Um, okay, you turn around, your parents say you can't drive the car this today, and they say no. You say when they say no, it means yes, so you get the car anyway, and you drive it. That's of evil, because you know that that's not the intent, or that's not what it was really intended to say. But because you wanted to switch and manipulate the saying, you did that on your own. um Another thing, I got another perfect example. A rapist, he's dating a girl, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna be sexually active. But he sits up there and he forces himself on her, saying that even though she said no, it meant yes. These tactics are used to manipulate another person's want, because when they want it to mean no, no, they will actually implement no, no. But when they want it to mean, you're saying no, but they want it to mean yes, they will implement yes. This is only to get their own will, or to get what they want to happen at that time. They don't care how they manipulate their way through, or how they deceive their way through, because this is a form of dark psychology. Dark psychology says manipulation, puppeteering, pretty much persuasion, is what dark psychology use. So they don't care how they get their way, they just want to get their way. So they'll try to get you with confusing talk, like certain stuff they say to you is to trick you into actually doing what they want you to do, or to trick you into actually thinking that you are at fault for something that they have chosen to do. So it's to always place the blame on you through certain wording or certain things that you do. Well, you said no, and I use the code that we switch no to yes. All kinds of stuff, but at the same time, mean what you say what you mean, and stuff like that. This is of God. Saying what you meaning what you say, and actually standing by what you say. A lot of things can happen if you sit up there and you mean what you say, and you stand by it. Um, a perfect example of that is like, okay, you have to be stubborn sometimes. Let's say you say, I'm not going to do that no more, or whatever. So now you got to take on a stubborn spirit to say, okay, well, look, I'm not going to do that anymore because it brought harm to me. It did this, it did whatever, and stuff like that, no matter what. And you have to be stubborn in that. It's not a bad thing to be stubborn, and stand on your word, but you have to also be wise and use discernment. A lot of people don't like to tell people to use discernment. Discernment is when you sit up there. A perfect example, John the Baptist being beheaded. Okay, a king says, look, I have to stand by my word, so I will have to behead them. But it was not something that he wanted to do. It wasn't even in his will, but he was manipulated, puppeteered, and persuaded into that because he had an audience or he had a crowd, and he did not want to retract what he had already promised. See, you have to be careful, because at some point we all fall into the manipulation of other people. I'll give you another perfect example. The Sadducees came to see Jesus and asked him about the resurrection, but they don't even believe in the resurrection. They say, well, who wife will she be? But you don't believe in the resurrection. How could you even ask questions about a resurrection when you don't believe in the resurrection? You are Sadducee. You don't believe in that. That's not of your culture. That's not of your trade. That's not of what you guys believe in. But they're asking questions in reference to it. And this is the same manipulation, the same tactics that are going to be used throughout the whole throughout your whole life. When you're trying to live for God, you're trying to live right, you're trying to do the right thing, it's going to constantly be that same type of manipulation, that same thing that everybody's trying to, get away with, murder, and try to manipulate you into doing some of any and everything. Be careful. Be wise. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And don't be so easy to change it either, because that's a tactic that they use. So what was your motive for saying yes or no? And if your motives for saying yes or no was legitimate, don't be easily persuaded by people to change your motives for the reason why you said yes or no. And the reason why I say that, okay, you might say no for something. You might say, no, I'm not gonna date, or whatever, right? All right, you start going throughout life, you're living your life the best you can and everything. You meet a person that you feel like is worthy enough for you to date, but you said that you weren't. But you met a person that you thought was worthy enough of dating. So now you're questioning certain things, and you're being persuaded by other people as well, because other people be like, oh, he seems like a nice guy, he this, he that, or whatever the case may be, or she seems like a nice woman, she's this, she that, or whatever the case may be. And these are arts of persuasion. Or you sitting up there and you seeing you're riding around, you're seeing people dating, you're seeing all this different stuff going on, and you're like, hey, it's nice to have that, or whatever the case may be, but you need to learn to stand on your word. Do not be easily persuaded. These are arts and tactics of war that they use against righteous people, people of God, just regular people altogether, to manipulate and say, okay, well, hey, I just puppeteered her, I just persuaded her, I just made this person do what I want them to do, through tactics of just like manipulating things around you, your environment, certain things that you do. They're gonna use that. So remember, when you say yes, you mean yes. When you say no, you mean no. When you talk direct to a person, you mean exactly what you said, nothing more and nothing less than that. And if they try to manipulate it or try to make your word something different, which that's something that they do with the word of God, they will change around words to manipulate the word of God. They will change around certain stuff that God says to manipulate the word of God. They will do a multitude of things. I mean,
You will be amazed to know half the stuff these people do to pretty much manipulate people into doing what they want them to do. So be smart. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Meaning, look, if I say no, that's what it means. It's nothing more than that, because anything other than me saying no to you and saying, okay, well, no means yes, that's of evil. If no means no, yes means yes, and that's of God.